Thank you both for being here. This is so exciting.
Every time I'm in this area, I feel like we're about ready to take the kids to go see Harry Potter or something at Universal there, or the water parks. They've had a lot of fun doing that over the last couple years in particular.
And I will say we are kind of excited to talk to somebody older than 6. So it is nice because we got 3 kids out the door this morning to school, which, as you know, the morning routine can be a little crazy. And so it's just nice to have a moment of calmness and zen. I'm not kidding. It's crazy. It's crazy in the DeSantis household.
Well, this is an honor of a lifetime for me to be able to having this chat with both of you. So we have a few questions that I think the audience would love to hear your perspective on a few things. So, Governor, 2 years ago, you signed the groundbreaking legislation that established the Responsible Fatherhood Initiative, which addresses the comprehensive needs of fathers and provides evidence-based programs that help fathers connect more meaningfully with their kids. Why was that legislation so important to you, both from a policy perspective and personally as a very engaged dad?
Well, before I get into that, I do think it's important to just observe that Florida, we're fortunate to have a great secretary here for DCF. And we're also blessed to have a very active and passionate First Lady here in the state of Florida, which is great. And then also just an introductory observation, because the Fatherhood Initiative, which I'm going to hit on in a minute, we've devoted resources to that. We've devoted resources to a lot of different things that we've done. And part of the reason you're able to do that is because we actually run the budget and run the state very efficiently and effectively. Florida, we have the lowest per capita state debt of all 50 states in this country. If you look at the amount of the economy has grown nationally since I became governor, it's grown U.S. economy by 11%. Over that same period of time, Florida's economy has grown twice that much, 22%. You see our unemployment rate's been lower than the national average for pretty much the last 4 years. You look at, we're now ranked #1 in economy by CNBC for 2 years in a row, #1 in education 2 years in a row. All these different things that has the state going in a direction that is sustainable. So we're not just doing well now, we're going to be able to do well in the future. So when they come to ask for support for something like Fatherhood Initiative, we're cutting taxes, we're running a massive surplus. Of course we are able to do things that are going to potentially be meaningful. And then when things do well, we're going to continue to help support that. So I just think that not every state can say what we can say about where we are overall. Now, on the Fatherhood Initiative, first, it's just a very obvious thing that our kids do better when they have a father in the home. Every single piece of empirical data, social science, everything has shown that they do better. Now, that's not always the case with everybody. Obviously, if you look compared to where we were 50 years ago to now, you have fewer than you did. That's just the reality. But particularly with our boys and these young men, having that male role model can make a big difference. And we've worked, I was talking to some folks that work with Coach Tony Dungy. He's got the All Pro Dads charity that they do a lot of stuff to try to get the fathers involved. And he made the observation when he would go to the prisons to minister to the prisoners that the thing that the prisoners had in common more than anything else, they didn't have a father in the home. And he believed, and I believe, that if they did, some of them probably wouldn't have been in prison. So our Fatherhood Initiative, we now have 30 different groups, community groups, that are involved in promoting the importance of fatherhood, helping fathers, and providing resources where appropriate. And yes, obviously we want to have fathers in the home, but just having mentorship can make a big difference. If somebody takes an interest in a young kid's life, that can make all the difference in the world. So we've put substantial resources into this. I think it's something that has started to bear fruit. But if we're able to be in a situation where we're increasing the number of men who are taking their responsibilities as fathers seriously and are engaged, that is going to be good for the state of Florida.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've had the privilege and the honor to be able to be First Lady of the state, and one of the unique things that I've had the opportunity to do is to be a part of a program called Youth Ambassadors. It's through the Department of Juvenile Justice, and these are kids who come through this program. They make a stop at the mansion because they've really overcome adversity, really troubled beginnings. I mean, a lot of things out of their hands, abuse or neglect, but they've turned their lives around. Now they're class presidents. Now they're starting their own businesses. Now they're getting all A's. They're the first child in their family to go to college. And I ask every single one of them the exact same question when they come in. I said, how did you get here? What was it? And they essentially are giving me the same exact answer every single time. And they say it was somebody that took an interest in my life and gave me value. And that was in the form of a mentor. It was a guardian ad litem. It was an all-pro dad. It was big brothers, big sisters. It was a teacher. It was somebody in the cafeteria workers line. It was someone that showed them the potential that was always there. It just took somebody to unearth it. And so that's why what we're doing and what he's done with the Fatherhood Initiative is such a game changer as it pertains to the government.
That's excellent, and we are looking forward to the wins and the gains. We actually have a fatherhood panel coming up here in a little bit, and we're excited to hear directly from those out there in the community who are doing the great work, whether it's mentoring or offering the programs to help support dads. So the next question is for both of you. So this administration has successfully spearheaded one of the most transformative initiatives among health and human service agencies through the creation of Hope Florida. Can you both tell us the genesis of the program and what you're most proud of or excited about in terms of its success?
Well, I think most people here probably are familiar with Hope Florida. More and more people around the state and even the country are becoming familiar with it. We've actually had states send delegations to meet with people in Florida about what we're doing with Hope Florida. But basically the insight is, we can have a government program, we can have government bureaucracies. That is only going to do so much. And sometimes it isn't going to end up being beneficial at all if it's structured in a way that is undercutting the ability for people to become self-sufficient. But yet, we have all these great resources, especially in a state like Florida. We've got all these great resources out there. We have our faith community. We've got a lot of charity groups. We have businesses that want to be involved in their community. We have individuals who want to volunteer. And so if somebody is in need, whether it's somebody coming to DCF or whether it now, as we've expanded into like Veterans Affairs, maybe it's a veteran going for help there, what you can do from just a government agency is really just scratching the surface of what's out there. But people don't know where to go. They don't necessarily know these resources are there. So the First Lady's insight was, why don't we have our agencies serve as a mechanism to connect people in need to all these great resources that are in society. So, for example, with the Care Portal, if you go in, maybe somebody, a young mother, got a young baby, been evicted from their apartment, they don't have a place to stay. You go in, that goes to the portal. All the stakeholders who are plugged in can get that, and they can come and they can service it. So maybe the agency could take care of it, but you don't even need to get that far most of the time. You'll have a church come, you'll have a charity come. And it has made a huge difference. And there have been, I think now over 30,000 people that have either reduced or eliminated their need for any government assistance because they're in a situation where people are helping them, not just by giving a check and that's it, but by making sure that they have what they need through all facets of their life. So it's been very, very successful. It's a model that I think maximizes the resources we have in our society. It recognizes the limits of what government can do and really seeks to harness a lot of people in this state who are willing to do an awful lot to help people in need.
No, I think I can sum it up basically in what it is like to go on a Care Portal delivery. And so I had the privilege on more than one occasion to go out and do this. And I showed up at a mom's front doorstep in Quincy, and her daughter had an intellectual disability. She had actually been hit by a car. She did not have transportation. She didn't have any way to get around. She was really struggling, didn't know where she was going to get her next meal. She was trying to do the best that she could, but you know what? She did not know where to go to turn for help. And that's part of the problem. there's a good part of it in the sense that you have so many avenues and so many wonderful people who are willing to do great things. But if you have the best program in the world and nobody knows it exists, what good is it, right? So this mom, what she now knows is you can call that one number, 833-GET-HOPE, right? It's the central line, and then that navigator, housed in DCF or whatever agency, then opens up the world beyond that to our faith-based partners, our nonprofits, to our private sector. So when we went out to her home in Quincy, we showed up with the help of City Church in Tallahassee. They got the groceries together. We put it in the car. We delivered it to her house, and we showed up at her front doorstep, and she had tears in her eyes. I mean, and that was just step one, right? After that, I mean, you could see the pieces starting to get together. There are certain nonprofits that can help with other aspects of what she was looking for. There's a lot of that's being done in the government, from vocational and technical and paid apprenticeships and all of these opportunities to advance the mom with educational opportunities. You're putting all of these pieces together to provide somebody the pathway to be able to live up to their God-given potential. It's all there. It's just trying to unearth it. And so that it's not a novel concept. It is, though, in the way that we're doing it in relation to government. The solution is there. And I'll tell you the other thing that's really been amazing about this. Not only are we making a difference with people who are coming into the system and want help, and they realize, and their hearts are filled when they see all the people in the community who are willing to support them. They feel like they're alone until you have members of a local church come by and give them hugs and say, hey, we're here for you. But the other thing that's really cool about it is talking to the navigators within DCF or DJJ or veterans. So when they get on the phone, prior to him being governor, they might have issued a TANF grant or whatever government assistance that somebody needed at the time to be able to get by, but that's where the story ends. Now, in talking with them, they feel empowered to be able to help the person on the other end of the phone and have the ability to do that as they're seeing them meet immediate needs, but also getting them on a pathway to prosperity, whatever that might be, economic self-sufficiency. So they're with them every step of the way. And when you have somebody who has dealt with a lot of trauma and don't really want to repeat their story 10 times over to this agency and this nonprofit, if they can figure out, because it's hard to put all the pieces together, which nonprofit can help with which component of what I need at what point in time. But you have these navigators now who take on the burden. They take on their story, and they help them get to where they want to go. And I think it's really an amazing thing of bringing what has always been there, but just thinking differently about how we can help people.
You both are amazing. I say that all the time. Your support of this program has been so inspiring. I mean, it's one thing to spearhead an initiative and kind of move on to the next, but you guys continue to double down in showing up every single day to promote it, to bring awareness. And the connections that we've made with Career Source Florida on the employment side has really made a huge difference, because we know people getting jobs really helps ensuring that they don't fall back into that cycle, being able to really take care of their families. So on the Hope Florida front, recently, Governor, you and the First Lady launched a new Hope Florida expansion called Activate Hope to serve individuals recovering from impacts of a disaster. And we just had the impacts from Hurricane Debbie. How will this expansion help Floridians across the state?
Well, I mean, I just think overall with this, it occurred to me when the First Lady spearheaded the initial Hope Florida about, okay, someone's in need, they don't necessarily know what's out there. And I thought back to, so we now have expanded this, and we're starting to do in the Department of Veterans Affairs. I remember when I got out of active duty, they give you like a stack for like veterans benefits, and it's just like pure bureaucracy. Like, look, I didn't need anything, I was fine. But here I am, you know, like I was educated, I had all this, and like I had no idea what you would do. It's just punishing, paralyzing bureaucracy. And so that is really, I think, the enemy in all this. So with the disaster, we take pride in disaster response. I mean, when we had Hurricane Ian, Category 5 storm 2022, you know, we had over 3 million people that were out of power, and we had over 3 million back on power within 48 hours. And then the ones that were left over, we surged more linemen to go help and do all that, and Cape Coral, those other places. We had pods up and running. Within 48 hours, people go get water, rations, all the things that they would need. That's never been done that early. But then what we saw was we had all these groups that were descending on Florida to help. And so maybe it's somebody that there's an Operation Barbecue. They just set up and they serve barbecue for people that may need a hot meal. You have Publix, Chick-fil-A. You have groups that will come in and they will actually repair homes. And so we have elderly, for example, that may have roof damage. These guys will come in and they will fix it. And we did a program where we provided the materials so these guys can do it. So there were all these different resources every which way, all these groups. It was pretty incredible. And so, yes, the state, we were leaning forward in a lot of things, helping with the power, energy, all this other stuff. But man, how do you harness that? And now with Hope Florida, with Activate Hope, it's going to be the same type of model. You'll have the hope, but hopefully we don't have any more storms this year. Debbie, as things go, Debbie was mild for a hurricane. There was some areas that got flooded really up across Florida, but the wind damage was not anything close to Ian, and the size of the storm was much less. At the beginning of the hurricane season, they said it was going to be the most active ever. Now they're writing articles saying it's so calm, all this stuff. My point on all this is it doesn't even matter if it's active or not terribly active. It's really what hits us or doesn't hit us. That's what we're concerned about. So you can have a very active season. Maybe we don't get impacted. Or you can have a mild season, but if we get impacted by just one big one, it does that. So knock on wood, we're in the high season right now through the month of September. It is calm right now, but you know what? It was calm this point in 22 when we had Ian. So we're ready for all this. But if something does happen, the Hope Bus will be wherever it is, and that is going to be the connector to all these different groups. So you may have someone that's elderly that had a tree fall on their home. Well, we could potentially have folks with the state, but there's all these groups. They will send people out there. They will get that tree off very quickly. Maybe someone needs some food. They will have food brought with all these groups very quickly. So this is going to be the central node where the needs after a storm, that's going to get disseminated to all these groups. We're going to have them all plugged in. And we've done some great things. For example, we have these groups that will repair homes. And so they can gut the drywall, they can help with roofs, but it's not like they're just traveling around with all the materials. So what we did after Ian, we did a deal with Home Depot and Lowe's. We got all these materials at cost. We had them available. And then these groups would take the materials they need and they'd repair people's homes. And they kept so many people in their homes as a result of doing that. This is going to happen, I think, much more efficiently now. In that storm for Category 5, that was the most efficient response that had been on record, not just in Florida, anywhere in the country. But I think now with the Activate Hope, people are going to know if they go to Activate Hope, if they can talk about what they need, then the Hope Florida will serve to connect them to all these different resources. And what I saw with Ian was more than I saw after. I wasn't governor yet with Michael, but I was there on the Panhandle after it happened. There was a lot more groups that came. I think that there's a lot of folks that are really passionate about helping people when disaster strikes. Well, let's utilize all that. It doesn't mean we're not going to be active with our Department of Emergency Management. We have been. We have our own trailer program. You used to have to wait for FEMA for 6 months. If someone wanted to get a trailer on their home while they repair, we then did our own, and we were providing that way faster than FEMA did. So we're proud of doing all that. But I'll tell you, there are so many opportunities out there to help people through this. And they did a great job after Ian, but now you're going to have an ability to go in. Those needs are going to be disseminated, and these groups are going to be able to respond.
Isn't harnessing the goodwill that's there. I remember after Ian, there were so many people that said, just deploy me. Where do I need to go? What do I need to do? And so this really is a way to be able to get the folks who are in need of help with the people who are willing to help, and then to make a connection. And the other thing, kind of what I said earlier, the way that, people are really suffering. Their homes are flooded. They've lost belongings. Their homes have been destroyed. And you don't want to talk to a bureaucrat who's going to sit there and talk about red tape. You want to be able to have an advocate who will take your story and fight for you. So you don't have to go over it 10 times and find this stuff. Like, there's nothing worse than the impersonal side of bureaucracy, which is bloated, and it's just impersonal. And so, therefore, I think the philosophy
especially
is really
with FEMA.
Especially with FEMA. So we want to take on the burden. But this philosophically different approach to government, I think, is a game changer when you look across all agencies and what he's done. So you look at, like you said, Veterans Affairs. You look at the Agency for People with Unique Abilities and Disabilities. And so now that we're able to harness the community, if you have a mom and their child is in need of a wheelchair, you can go and put that into the navigator, who can put it in the care portal, and we can go out to the faith-based community. The private sector can actually respond to care portal requests, and we can get that from the ground in the community instead of waiting for whatever payment to come in to expedite it. But then what also is so neat about making these connections and using government as a way to leverage that is that once you make the connection, government really becomes less of a portion of this, because now the faith-based community or the private sector has now seen that family or that single mom in need of help. They're not going to unsee what they saw. They're going to be there for the long run, whatever it takes. And so it's a really powerful thing that I think that we're starting in the state. I think it's going to, at the end of the day, help people. That's the other thing I think we both are in agreement on is, if you do a government program, are you holding yourselves accountable? At the end of the day, are people getting off of government assistance? Are they on a way to pathway to prosperity? Are we actually doing things to better the lives of the people who are seeking out the help to begin with? And with this program, yes. One quick thing on a technical side that I love that Siobhan has done with the closed loop referral system. They always laugh at me when we talk about this. But that's a technology that they're using. So when somebody comes in to say that they need help, we make sure that we deliver that help and we hold ourselves accountable. So it's not just like, take a phone number, oh, here's a nonprofit, I hope it goes well. It's we call back, did you get what you needed? Did you get the job? How did it go? Are we on to the next step? And I think that that's a really refreshing side of government. And the other thing is not having to lobby for any money with any of this. Because we've taken people within government and transitioned them over to navigators. And so now they're a part of seeing someone be successful. So yes, we've talked about the 30,000 people we've transitioned off of government assistance, which saves the taxpayer $900 million over the course of 10 years. But if we can start meaningfully helping people and getting in front of it and getting the community involved with that single mom, the veteran, the child with unique abilities, and meeting those needs before government ever gets involved, man, that is a game changer. It is a game changer for the individual, but it's also a game changer for the taxpayer, because we're not meeting the problem when it happens and then trying to fix it afterwards. We're getting in front of it. And so Florida really is revolutionary in that way and ultimately helping people.
Absolutely.
And this is with the Activate Hope. I mean, you don't want to have to deal with these disasters. Obviously, in our part of the country, with the climate and the weather that we have, it's something it's just a fact of life that can happen. But there's not another state you would rather have responding on your behalf than what we have in Florida. I mean, you have people at the county level that are very experienced. You have people at the state level. You know, our emergency management at the state is the best in the country under Kevin Guthrie's leadership, not even close. And then you have so many other stakeholders who just have now taken it as something that they want to respond to. So you look at like our utilities, like an FPL, like they mobilize and they work to get the power back on very quickly. We bring in other linemen to help if we need to, and we foot that bill. You look at like, Waffle House is open like 2 hours after the storm comes. They have very good emergency response, I can tell you that. But also like Ian, you had Publix, all these places were open on generator very quickly, Walmart's. And so I think we've created a culture of just rapid response, try to get back to normal as quickly as possible, because even in a Category 5 like you had in Ian, the vast majority of people in Southwest Florida, I mean, they didn't have their homes destroyed. Some of them had some damage. Some of them didn't have much necessarily. But if everyone's without power, none of the services, all that, if that drags on for weeks, like it has in other parts of the country, even recently, it just makes it so much more difficult to be able to do. So to that, I mean, the backdrop is I think most people in Florida who just are in this space really take pride in responding. Now that you have the Activate Hope, there's going to be so many other people and groups who are involved or want to be involved. It's going to be like plug and play, and they're going to be able to act very, very quickly. So hopefully we have a very uneventful September and early October. But if somehow we have to activate, we're going to be ready to do so.
It's amazing. I think this is so important. A lot of times when individuals fall on hard times, there were a number of fail points that led to that happening. But when a disaster happens, it can be in one fell swoop, like you lose everything and you have to start back over. And the quicker we can be a part of helping someone get back on their feet, it means that they won't have to tap into these government programs. So the Activate Hope component of Hope Florida 100% is working upstream and preventing folks from falling into that deeper end crisis. So I want to pivot back to mentorship. So First Lady, Hope Florida has partnered with the Guardian Ad Litem office, you mentioned them earlier, to offer mentors to youth aging out of foster care throughout the state. What difference do mentors make, and how can someone volunteer through Hope Florida to mentor our youth?
The mentorship, as I mentioned earlier, is huge. Right? The greatest thing you can do to change the trajectory of a child's life is to be able to provide mentorship opportunities. And it's something as small, which is a big deal, as going and reading to a child, just showing that you're interested and listening and giving them value. And so the Guardian Ad Litem program that you've done in your agency has been huge for kids aging out of the foster care system. We don't just flick a switch. It's a lot of children have been through some pretty hard times. And then all of a sudden, off you are and you're an adult. There are a lot of questions, a lot of assistance that's needed. And so to be able to provide those mentorship opportunities are huge. So this leads to another component of what we're doing. We haven't officially launched it yet, but whatever, it's fine. But with Hope Florida, we've always been focused on, if you need help, call 833, get hope, right? 833. And so, but there's a lot of people who want to help, who would like to be able to mentor, to be able to read to a child, to be able to volunteer at an animal shelter, who would like to be able to help in disaster recovery. But again, it's like there's all these different things. It's like it's so hard to go to Google and DuckDuckGo and figure it out. And like I go here and here, and it's a mess. You want to be able to harness that and find a meaningful way for the millions of people who are here in this state who want to make a difference. And so we're going to be launching very soon a component with Volunteer Florida where you call that same number. And so on one side, you would like help. The other one, you need help. The other one, I would like to help. And so people will be able to get within a geographic region around their house, a radius, whatever they want, of opportunities where they can make an impactful difference. And so it's going to be two ways, too. You're going to be able to have the nonprofits who are out there who want volunteers. They're going to want people, and so they're going to be able to input that into the system. And then you're going to have folks who are looking for opportunities to be able to make a difference to come into Hope Florida, and we're going to be able to maximize the horsepower. When you think about all of the untapped resources, which we are tapping into in the state of Florida, that don't necessarily involve government, you've got the faith-based community, you've got the nonprofits, you've got the private sector, but you've got a wealth of retirees in the state of Florida who have a lot of lived experiences and a lot to offer, a lot of kids or a lot of people, or even to be, to be able to go to a veteran's home to say thank you for your service, or show up at an elderly person's home who, is sitting there by themselves. How nice would it be to be able to show up and to be able to have a conversation? We're facilitating all of those opportunities for people who need help and who want to help. And I think that's going to be a big game changer. So mentorship opportunities will be a big component of that.
And I think we can all think back to a time in our life where a mentor has made a difference, and so excited about that new component. So I know you guys are really busy, so we have one more question for you. So our audience today is comprised of leaders from all sectors, government, nonprofits, and the private sector. What's the one takeaway or challenge that you have for them as you think about the future of Hope Florida and its mission?
Well, I think the observation I would just have is thanks for everybody who's involved and working in this area. You are making meaningful progress in an area that is not easy to make progress in. I mean, look around the country. A lot of the states that do it differently than we have are not making any progress across any of these fronts. I tell people one of the reasons I like Hope Florida is because, with government, if we need to do something, like after Ian, they knocked the bridges out, so we rebuilt them, right? Like I know that if I just get people and we get it and people go, then you do it. When you're talking about things like child welfare, there's so many different factors that go involved. It's not as easy as me just writing a check and sending some people to go do. You have to have the community involved. You have to have the faith community. You got to have our charities. You got to have the private sector and people that are working for the agency. I mean, this is all very, very important. I think our approach has been the most effective. And look, the fact that you have other states that will make pilgrimages to Florida to try to learn about the way they're being done shows. So I think that there's going to be more challenges ahead. We're going to constantly evaluate what we need to be doing different, as you see with Activate Hope. And if things need to be tweaked, we do it. I think you got to be very nimble. But a lot of people have worked very hard to see the progress that we've made. And so for that, I would just say to everybody in the room, thank you. We appreciate it.
I have an ask. I had to say, no, but say thank you, honest to God. Thank you for everything that you do, because we know how difficult it is and how sometimes these cases are heart-wrenching, but you put in the time to be able to positively impact someone's life, and for that, we owe you nothing but the most sincerest of thanks. I will say, when you look at the whole system, right now, I think we have 16.5 million people of faith across the state of Florida. We have 20,000 institutions of faith. In Hope, Florida, we have 2,000 churches signed up. Can you imagine if we got more churches and synagogues and what have you to be able to meet those needs, how much more we would be able to do on the care portal? So meeting those needs, right? So if you have a Hope Navigator that finds out that there's a mom who's having a hard time putting food on the table, they input that into the care portal system, and then you deliver upon that. Private sector can do that too. So if you have a business, let's say you have a pizza shop and your employees, you want to be able to, maybe get some groceries, or maybe you want to deliver school supplies, you can be a part of the solution too. So there is not a difficulty, but I would love more people to know about it, because they can have a really big impact. And so if you think of something as just like, hey, your church and your congregation, if they're not involved in Hope Florida, let them know. This is literally like, you could have one person gets the sheets, another person gets the food, another one gets school supplies. You get it together, you deliver it to the house. It's a big deal. So I think that is one side of it. The other ask is, nothing hurts our souls more than seeing people suffer. Like I can't. So if you see somebody, or you see a family member of somebody who is suffering, and you want to try to give them help and hope, give them the number. Because there's a lot of times I've met with families whose loved ones are battling addiction, and they don't know what to do and where to turn. They're like, I gave them the number, but they're not calling. Well, then you call. You call on their behalf. You'll be amazed at all of the resources that are out there. It's just, again, streamlining it and making it very easily digestible for someone who's going through a difficult time to be able to make a difference. So anything you can do, because you guys are key players in the communities, and you're on the front lines. Any nonprofit that wants to be a part of that Rolodex, let us know. Any church and congregation, synagogue, what have you, wants to be a part of the solution. Anybody who needs help out there, call the number. Anybody who would like to volunteer to be a part, call the number. And the more and more we do to lay this foundation, the more people we're going to be able to help in a meaningful way. And I think there's just nothing more rewarding to be able to see somebody succeed.
Amazing. I'll say I get to see their hearts every single day in the work that I do. I know that if there's an ask to be made to support children in need, they're right there. I hope you all have seen it firsthand in today's discussion. Anything else either of you want to add before we close?
Well, no. I mean, I think things are looking up. We've got a lot of opportunities. We were watching college football this weekend. It didn't work as well for if you're a Florida State fan, wasn't good. If you're a Gator fan, I guess Miami Hurricanes look like they're really good. So if we have Miami fans, You guys got a shot, but no, we're going to continue to work really hard. I really appreciate what Siobhan has done as secretary, and all of our other secretaries that have been involved with other agencies. I mean, when you're talking about Hope Florida, we're expanding it. So it's not just the Department of Children and Families. I mean, we have elder affairs. We've got a lot of irons in the fire now. So thanks to everybody who's been involved in leadership capacity, and thanks to the First Lady for visioning this, spearheading it, and now bringing it to where we're seeing very positive results. So keep it up. Thank you.